Kostas Passaris, also known as Konstantinos, was born on March 9, 1975 in Greece. He was the son of a Greek sailor from the city of Cyclades called Evangelos Passaris, who had some problems with the law. His mother's name was Augusta Maria Zevanov, a woman of Russian-Romanian descent who lived in Brazil with her family. On one of his voyages as a sailor, Evangelos Passaris landed here in Brazil, and it was here that he met Augusta Maria Zevanov. The two had a brief relationship, and later Evangelos had to return to Greece, but they continued to communicate. As the weeks went by, Augusta realized she was pregnant, so she told Evangelos, who upon receiving the news was very happy and said he would pick her up in Brazil so they could live together in Greece as a family. Once in Greece, the couple settled in the city of Korydallos, a city with just over 60,000 inhabitants located in the greater Piraeus region. At first the couple's relationship was going well. Kostas was born and spent part of his childhood in Korydallos. The couple did not have any more children, and during the raising of their only child, there were disagreements and fights. His parents' now troubled relationship took a toll on Kostas, who witnessed everything from a young age. As time went by, things only got worse between the couple, until they decided that the best thing to do was to get a divorce. Around this same time, Kostas began stealing small objects and getting into fights at school. According to sources, Kostas was just 6 years old when he committed his first offense. At the time, he was returning from school, and in the middle of the journey he saw a toy that interested him inside a store. Kostas then simply entered the store, took the toy and left without anyone seeing him. When he got home, his father asked who had given it to him, while Kostas replied that the toy had been given to him by a man he didn't know on the street. Obviously, Kostas' father realized he was lying, and after his son told him the whole truth, he went back to the store, paid for the toy and told Kostas to apologize. The man never reprimanded his son, much less punished him for stealing the toy, and about this in a later interview, Kostas said the following: "Dad went, bought the toy, and gave it back to me. That didn't bother me. It didn't help at all. I didn't learn anything." At the age of 15, Kostas was the target of an investigation due to a robbery. The police carried out a search of his house and found several stolen objects in his room. As a result, he was sent to a reformatory where he spent 6 months. Upon leaving, Kostas decided to drop everything and go live on the streets. They did this without telling anyone, and his parents were desperate. To support himself, Kostas started begging on the street, until he was reported as this was a crime in the country at the time, and he was sent back to the reformatory. In the years that followed, Kostas' life alternated between crimes and reformatory, until in 1993, when he turned 18, he was called up to enlist in the army. Kostas became part of the 29th Infantry Regiment in Komotini, but even though he was in military accommodation, he continued stealing, both inside and outside the barracks. In 1995, when he was 20 years old, the authorities became aware of his criminal activities, and as a result, the army police arrested him, and he was taken to the Vlor military prison. However, shortly afterwards he achieved the feat of escaping from military prison. From then on, he was declared a deserter, and began to be wanted by the authorities. Kostas saw it all as a great adventure, and while he was on the run, he began carrying out armed robberies to get money. He did this for almost a year, until in late 1996, he robbed a woman outside the Kalithia power plant, which sparked a police chase that ended in his arrest. After his trial, Kostas was sent to Cassandra prison in Halkidiki to serve his sentence, and it was there that he met another criminal who would become his partner in crime, Romanian Nicolae Gorea. In 1999, Kostas and Nicolae were released together with a third criminal, who was their friend, Ion Vasili. Upon leaving prison, the three decided to start a partnership in crime. Nicolae had been deported to Romania, but returned to Greece within a few days to continue their plan. Together they began a wave of armed robberies in hotels, exchange offices, and travel agencies throughout the city of Athena, causing panic wherever they went. On February 19, 2000, the three were seen by the police in Vati Square before starting another robbery, and this ended up leading to a confrontation between the police and the three criminals. This confrontation resulted in 2 injured police officers and the death of a young Vasily. Kostas Passaris and Nicolae Gorea managed to escape. After the loss of his friend, Kostas called the Alpha TV program and made threats live. He promised that he would take revenge for what the police had done to Ion Vasily, saying that he would put an end to 3 police officers. Due to these threats, authorities intensified policing, and 3 days later, a security company called Attica Security, which was helping the police, managed to arrest Kostas Passaris in America Square, and a pistol and a grenade were found with him. Later the same day, the police managed to locate Nicolae Gorea, but he refused to surrender and began an exchange of gunfire, in which he suffered the worst and died. After his retrial, Kostas Passaris was sent to serve his sentence in Kordalos prison, where he was considered one of the most difficult and undisciplined prisoners in the entire prison complex. He was described as a savage man who violently attacked both other prisoners and guards on the rounds. Not even the prison director, Antonis Aravantinos, escaped the criminal's violence. Kostas sent his friend known as Raducanu to Antonis' house to take his life. On the day of the incident, as soon as the director parked the car in his apartment's garage, he noticed that a man was crawling on the ground next to the other cars with a pistol. Antonis managed to surprise and disarm this man, and then let him go. The next day, Kostas demanded an audience with director Antonis, but instead, the director went to the criminal's cell. Once in the cell, Kostas got straight to the point. He told Antonis that he intended to finish him, and that's why he sent his friend to do the job. However, he was faster and managed to surprise his friend, and instead of taking his life, he let him walk away unharmed. Kostas said he respected that, and from then on, as Antonis had spared his friend's life, he would now protect him and put an end to anyone who tried to hurt the prison director. At the beginning of 2001, Kostas began to fake epileptic seizures, but he allegedly did it with such realism that prison officials thought it was true. Then, on February 7, 2001, the Judicial Council approved his transfer to the hospital for tests. On the 16th of the same month, Kostas was escorted by 2 chief guards from the transfer department. These guards were Athanasios Drakopoulos, aged 47, and Dionysios Elevisopoulos, aged 49. They were also accompanied by the prison officer from the Ministry of Justice, Andreas Faisekis, aged 33. Kostas was transferred from the penitentiary to the Athens General Hospital, but as soon as they entered the waiting room, Kostas pulled out a gun and shot the 3 officers even though he was handcuffed. To this day, it is not known how Kostas got a gun and still hid it without anyone noticing. He himself does not say how he did it, but the suspicion is that he had help from a prison employee. 2 of the guards shot by Kostas, Athanasios and Dionysios, died instantly, while Andreas, despite being seriously injured, was rescued and managed to survive. During all the confusion and panic that had arisen inside the hospital due to the gunshots, Kostas took the opportunity to escape. The first thing he did, after finding a safe place, was to meet a Bulgarian call girl named Blanka Slavsheva. He had sex with this woman, and then decided to take her life for reasons that are still unknown. After that, Kostas continued his criminal activities, carrying out several armed robberies, and this time he had no mercy, and if he thought he should, he would take people's lives without hesitation. In an attempt to capture Kostas, police raided the apartment of a man named Dimitri Polydoropoulos in Neos Cosmos. Dimitri had previously been Kostas' cellmate, and authorities knew there was a strong possibility he had been looking for his friend when he escaped. Weapons, grenades, communication radios, a police radio frequency list, and various illicit substances were found inside the apartment. Dimitri was arrested and taken to the police station. During their interrogation, the police discovered that they were right. Kostas was staying in the same apartment as Dimitri, and they saw a unique opportunity to capture him. Then, on July 31, 2001, a massive operation was carried out. Dozens of police officers were positioned at strategic points around the building, while 7 men from ECOM, a Greek special unit, remained inside the apartment. Kostas crossed the street, entered the building, and as he was turning the key in the front door, one of the police officers inside the apartment shouted for him to stand still before he entered the place. At that moment, Kostas realized it was a trap and ran away. The police officers, in an attempt to prevent the criminal from escaping, shot at him, and one of the shots ended up hitting his leg, but he still managed to escape from the entire team that was spread around the block. The operation was a failure, and the head of Hellenic Police, Lieutenant General Ioannis Georgakopoulos, an officer with an impeccable career, with several successful operations, who was responsible for this operation, ended up resigning from his position due to shame of what had happened. On 28 August 2001, after briefly recovering from his injury, Kostas broke into a pharmacy in Kypseli. During this invasion, he tried to rob the place, and in the process ended up taking the life of 50-year-old Maria Seyfou, and seriously wounding her sister Argyro Christakou, who was shot 5 times but survived, both of whom owned the pharmacy. In September of the same year, Kostas managed to flee Greece using a false passport. He went to Romania, where he continued his robbery spree. In the early hours of November 25, Kostas robbed a currency exchange office in Bucharest and took the life of the owner and also an employee, taking the value of $16,000. When the Romanian police learned that the perpetrator of the crime was Kostas Passaris and that he was wanted in Greece, cooperation between the police of both countries was made with the intention of capturing him. The police managed to locate and arrest Paul Popa, a friend of Kostas who was considered his right-hand man and who was also involved in the robberies. After a brief interrogation, Paul agreed to take the officers to where Kostas was hiding, and he was finally arrested. Kostas was held in a maximum security prison in Craiova, Romania, and in November 2011 he went on trial at the Bucharest court, being sentenced to life in prison for the robbery and for taking the lives of the exchange house owners. In January 2020, the Mixed Jury Appeals Court in Athens convicted Kostas Passaris of the other crimes he had committed in Greece. Kostas was sentenced to 4 life sentences for the lives he took and a further 49 years in prison for the other crimes. Greek authorities intended to open an investigation into how Kostas obtained the gun he used to shoot the guards escorting him at the Athens General Hospital. However, the prosecutors responsible for the case felt that his conviction was already extensive enough and that there was no need to spend resources opening a new investigation. Well, you can understand not wanting to spend resources on everything, but the fact is that someone inside the prison passed this weapon to Kostas, and this culminated in the deaths of 2 agents. I think that because of this, it is clear that there is a serious case of corruption in the prison unit, and this should be investigated and the person responsible punished. Kostas Passaris was one of the biggest criminals in Greece, even receiving the nickname Beast of the Balkans. He is currently in the same maximum security penitentiary in Craiova, Romania, and in 2019, he even gave an interview to a newspaper. The authorities were so afraid that Kostas would run away again, that in order for this interview to take place, all members of the journalistic team were investigated 2 months before, and on the day of recording all the equipment was dismantled to see if there were any weapons inside them. Furthermore, all of the team's cell phones were locked in a special cabinet, and they could only get them back at the end of the interview. Obviously, the journalistic team was a little scared, since if all this security was necessary for the interview, Kostas was an extremely dangerous man. But when the interview began, Kostas showed himself to be a completely different man than he was before. He stated that in the last 10 years he changed his way of thinking and sought to redeem himself for his sins. He consulted a priest and now prayed every day for forgiveness. He said he was no longer a violent man. He no longer hurt people, and now he does everything to make his inner peace prevail. When asked during the interview about his childhood, Kostas said it was a part of his life he wasn't ready to talk about, and the little he said about his parents implied that neither of them really cared about him. He also stated that his parents' separation was the most difficult moment of his childhood. And so, it was the story of Kostas Passaris, one of the most feared and dangerous criminals in all of Greece, whose list of crimes exceeds 100. Well folks, that is it for today. Thanks for watching until the end. Best wishes, and I'll see you next time.